With gas prices over $4 a gallon nationally, Congress is searching for ways to lift the burden off the consumer. House Republicans held a press conference today on technologies to increase American energy. I spoke with House members on Capitol Hill and asked them if they would support lowering federal taxes on oil and gas. Here's the report. In addition to new technologies that are being developed, and given the high price of gasoline, should federal gas taxes on oil be lowered, and what steps are being taken, if so, to do that?
In all honesty, I don't think any steps here are moving legislatively. I think there are members who express their opinions. I support lowering the federal gas tax, but I support it with the caveat of addressing the earmarks that we have in spending bills. Taking that money to offset the loss to the Highway Trust Fund, because in all reality, you have federal taxes to improve roads and bridges and our interstate highway system and the like. We all know that still needs to be done. And in this era of efficiency, you want to be able to move traffic rapidly, which means you have to have a good road system. So I think you get a 2-for. If you lower the gas tax, you help offset the high cost to the individual consumer. If you take the earmarks, you address this whole debate on earmarking and appropriation bills. You do a moratorium, you roll that money in to offset the loss to the Highway Trust Fund. I think there'd be a lot of support for that. Unfortunately, in this Democrat majority, I don't think we'll see anything like that.
Lowering the gas tax, a penny or 4 pennies means that we wouldn't be improving the roads in America, because the gas tax is all about making sure there's money available to improve roads, bridges, and the like. The issue really is, why are we in this position? And the reason why we're in this position is because we have a president who is an oiler, we have a vice president who is an oiler, both of whom were engaged in the oil business. And over the course of 7 or 8 years, we've seen the cost of gas go up to $4.50 a gallon. I would suggest that if we want immediate relief, truly immediate relief, we should look at the strategic oil reserve and make sure that we can draw that down so there's more supply in the marketplace. I'm also going to be introducing a bill that's going to lower the speed limit in the United States on interstate roads, and then create incentives for states to do it.
Grover Norquist, president of Americans for Tax Reform, says lowering the federal gas tax is only part of the solution.
Removing Nancy Pelosi would do the most to reduce the price of gasoline. She's the one who won't allow a vote on drilling in ANWR. She won't allow a vote on drilling offshore. She won't allow us to look for shale oil in places we know where it is. And she maintains the laws against nuclear power. So she's the reason why energy is scarce and expensive, and to play games with the strategic reserve, which is supposed to be there for times of war and national calamity, is silly.
That's one thing that we should consider in the mix, because right now, if you look at $1 that goes toward the purchase of gasoline, for instance, the amount that the federal government takes in tax is really quite astounding. If you compare that to, for instance, profits that oil companies make on that equation. So it's important for, I think, the federal government to take a look at maybe doing what we can to help relieve for the American public anything that we can relieve on this terrible burden that they're facing right now, the increased cost of gasoline. That's not the answer. The answer is to increase sources of supply so that we can bring down the price of gasoline. Ultimately, we want to bring down the cost of energy and be independent, have America be independent on energy production. That's really what we need to do. That's the answer. But in the short term, I'm absolutely open to looking at gas taxes.
It's not a bad idea to cut the gas tax as prices have gone up. Certainly, if the government were simply honest with people about how much of the cost of gasoline is tax policy, and that's just not just the gas tax at the pump. That's the taxes on the companies that create, that explore for energy. It's taxes on the companies that ship energy. A majority of the cost of a gallon of gas are taxes. So step one for government to realize how to fix the problem is to realize they're a good chunk of the problem.
How can we lower the gas prices and actually not have it tax the consumer in the long run?
Well, I think if the question is what can we do immediately to help the consumer, I think there's really two things that consumers have to. One, they're doing themselves. The real answer is they have to conserve, and they're doing it. They're driving less. We're driving less miles this year than we drove last year, but we're still paying more. Individual conservation is one way that people are going to have to make do. The second thing that we could do is to really bust the speculation bubble. And the way you do that is making a major announcement that, we don't care. We're going to go after all our natural resources, whether that's in the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge, whether that's at the Outer Continental Shelf, whether that's in the Eastern Gulf, as we heard today, coal to liquid applications. We have natural resources available right now that we can put into planning stages. And what that would do, it would take the speculation that's in the market now, and some people think maybe it adds $20 to a barrel because people are betting we're going to do nothing. Now we're going to do something. So if you roll that $140 a barrel down to $120, well, still $120 a barrel, we're still going to be paying around $4, maybe $3.75 a gallon. But at least you take the speculation out, and that's the only way you really do it.
The challenge is government doesn't wish to spend less money, and therefore it says, oh, how will we pay for lower taxes? Well, people pay for higher taxes. Governments need to stop doing what they're doing.
Some of the Republicans on the committee had said that in California there are areas that we could be tapping to drill. We have a lot of areas in the United States that we haven't tried to drill in. Do you think drilling in these areas would actually bring down the price for the average consumer?
I think drilling in existing areas where there are already permits would have some benefit, but it's still a year or two away, even in that scenario. I think what the consumer today is looking for is immediate relief, and that's what we have to focus on.
You said the president and the vice president are both oil men. We know the vice president was involved with Halliburton, of course. You think that has something to do with the reason why the prices are so high?
Well, we're not naive people. People tend to continue to support what they're comfortable with. Both our president and vice president have been in the oil industry. They know exactly how to fix the situation, and they've done nothing to fix the situation except want more expanded oil drilling, even though we have 68 million acres of permitting right now available to oil companies to drill on, and they're not drilling on them. So the question is, why aren't they drilling on permitted land, federal land, that has already been made available to them by permit that they are not drilling on?
Cheney and Bush have been president and vice president for 8 years. They've promoted policies of lowering the cost of energy by allowing drilling in Alaska and offshore. Make a list of the things that would reduce the price of oil, and I'll bet you a nickel that Democratic congressman is on the wrong side of every single one of them.
I'm Nicholas Ballasy, CNSnews.com, Washington.